Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for today's workshop. We've been looking forward to it. We hope we're going to have a great time. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Alon Blatt. I'm the COO of Security Joes. For those of you who don't know, Security Joes is an incident response company. We're international. We work all over the world. Our team is spread around the whole world. We are a multi-layer incident response company, working with different companies. And of course, if you have any questions later on after the presentation, Felipe will be happy to answer. I'm sorry. And with that, I would like to introduce you to Felipe, who will be giving this talk and workshop, and I hope you're going to find it interesting. Felipe?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm super excited of seeing all of you here. And actually, I want to share during this presentation all the things that I have learned while I have been playing with malware. So let's go directly with this. In the meantime, so actually, let me share the screen. Just for the record, well, actually, as Alon said previously, so we are an incident response company. We're located all over the world. Just in case you want to contact us, you can contact us here in our webpage. So this is our webpage, www.securityjoes.com, and you can leave us here a message. Or if you want, also, you can always go to our blog and you can see which researchers we have. Also, to start, before starting with the presentation, I'm going to share over the chat a link. This link actually contains this guide. You have all the description of the workshop that we are going to do today. The idea is that you have here the virtual machine, the sample, so you can do it on your own. And you have all the steps that we are going to follow step by step. So this is a guide that you are going to have for the future if you want to continue playing with this kind of workshop. I mean, so I'm going to send you this this message. Let me, where's the chat? Here. I'm going to send you that over the chat here. Everybody, send to everybody in the meeting. Okay, so now you have in the chat, you have the link. Let me know if you can access the website. And you can just go directly to the requirements and download the virtual machine and the malware samples. We're going to use virtual machine. You can load that virtual machine on your favorite virtualization software. I use VMware, but you can use VirtualBox, doesn't matter, it's up to you. And also for the samples, once you have the machine ready, you just need to drop those samples into your machine. So it's everything is ready on that part. Now, so let's start with, before we start with the actual workshop, while you are downloading all the samples, please, so I want to give you some context, okay? So first, okay, let's start with this presentation. Okay, I'm Felipe Duarte, Senior Threat Researcher here at Security Joes. You can actually find me in Twitter as darkopcodes. And today we are going to focus this talk just in Packers, okay? So let's consider the following scenario. So you work in an incident response team, And you are required to analyze a suspicious file. Okay, so in one of your computers, you found a suspicious file. So your team wants to understand the type of threat this file represents to the organization and which actions you could actually do to mitigate and prevent future intrusions with this file. So the question here is, what could you do from a technical perspective? You being a blue teamer, what could you do? So we have several options. First, we can use a sandbox. That solution could be a public or a private solution. And you can also start looking for information in internet or scene tools, VirusTotal, a lot of sandboxes that are out there. But what if the sample is new? What if this hash hasn't been seen in any other platform? So you are kind of blind in this scenario. Also, sometimes there are some samples that are not going to run correctly in the sandbox. So they are going to detect the sandbox and that's it, end of the story. So you cannot rely in this tool completely, like 100%. You need to sometimes use other approach or other kind of strategy. So in this case, you can also do some memory forensics. So that's good, that's important, interesting. But I think here is that it depends actually on the way the intrusion was handled by the incident handlers, basically. So if at the point where we detect the intrusion, we capture the memory forensics, all the evidence was captured in a correct way. So actually we can use this information and we can speed up the process. But this is not the case that usually we see. We need to have a good level of maturity to actually have a good incident response like that. So this could be hard sometimes. We can also start to dig deeper into the logs, but sometimes you are blind in the logs if you are not logging the right thing. So we cannot rely on the logs. That scenario is where manual malware analysis is something that actually we need to care about. And this is one of the important things when we are dealing with malware, is if you really want to understand all the secrets that the attackers hide in their weapons, we need to do some malware analysis. So that's why malware is important. When you take your time to study a malware sample, you are going to understand a lot of things that are happening under the hood, and you are going to learn a lot of the way threat actors are doing stuff, are committing crime, basically. But, and here is like this is the motivation of this workshop. If you come across a packer, if you stumble onto a packer, this malware analysis task is not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that you just look at the code and, oh yeah, it's super simple. No, actually, packers are there just to make our life miserable. So that's why we want to learn how to deal with packers without losing our mind. So that's the motivation. That's why we are here learning about packers. So now let's consider, let's first go to the definition. What's basically a packer? Yeah, the recording, we're going to, in the meantime, answering the questions. We're going to share the recording. Currently, we are recording the whole session. Everything, all the session is going to be recorded. So don't worry about that, guy. Okay, so what's a packer? A packer is a tool that software developers, and this is important, malicious or not malicious, software developers are going to use packers to shield or to protect the programs against reverse engineering. So that's the main purpose of a packer. They are going to provide several types of protections, including, but not limited to. So first, anti-analysis validation. So they are going to constantly start validating the environment in which the sample is running. So they are going to validate if there are tools that are kind to monitoring the behavior of the program, if there is any kind of debugger, if any kind of API hooking. So they are going to just validate the environment. If they found one of those tools, like looking into the behavior or monitoring the sample, they are going to stop the execution, for example. Another use case for the packers is to avoid detection. So usually the packers are like polyformic. That means they change the external appearance of a sample every time you like pack the sample. One case, I don't know if you, for example, have seen recently some news in Twitter related to Catbug. Catbug uses this kind of packer. So the packer always, when they create or generate the new sample, the sample is going to change constantly. But in the center, the core of the program is going to be the same. So packers uses polymorphism to avoid detection. The other use case in which packers are used is basically to obfuscate or encrypt the code. So it's going to make your life super harder, or it's going to be super difficult to actually analyze the sample. Okay, so that's, we are going to share the link over Dropbox. So, and actually we're going to save this presentation on Dropbox, and we're going to share the link in Twitter, in our social media, all our social networks, so you can share that with your colleague. So a packer, just here, like with this graph, packer is like this external layer of the matryoshkas, those dolls, like Russian dolls. So basically, they change the structure, the appearance of our malware, just to hide the real content. So you see here, for example, this is what we see at the beginning, but inside this, we got another layer, and inside that, we got the actual malware. So that's kind of the analogy here. So packers are something outside of our malware, and they are going to do stuff to make our lives miserable. We just need to skip this, and just go directly to the malware. So that's why this workshop is called Watch Out and Just Skip the Packer. We want to skip all the packers, all the layers of packing code, and we want to go directly to the malware. So that's the purpose. Now that we know what is a packer, why these tools are used, so it is important to understand how we can detect those tools. So I have 6 different methods for you to actually do this detection. The first one, signature-based. So we can use some tools that have some signatures for some like well-known packers, and they can allow you to find those packers. Second, strings, imports, and export analysis. So as I told you before, a packer is a tool that is going to hide the valuable information of a sample. And if you have some experience with malware analysis, sometimes the valuable information is in the strings, in the imports, or the exports. So at least in the imports and the strings, you can get from the imports and from the strings, you can get a lot of information. I mean, if, for example, If this is a keylogger, so in the strings, probably in some cases, you are going to see the mapping of each of the keys. So if you see that specific strings of the key map, actually the keyword mapping, so you can say, okay, probably this is a keyword. If you see in the string something like, I don't know, like loading back connection or something like that, so probably that gives you at least an idea of what the sample is capable of doing. When we talk about imports are the functions that are used by the malware. So if you see network connections, network related functions, so probably it gives you an idea that this malware can connect to the network. So that's why it's important to see that. P structure analysis. So we can identify some patterns, some characteristic of the P structure, and based on that, we are going to identify if some malware is packed or not. Entropy analysis is also useful. IDA analysis. We're going to see each of these in some seconds, and just listing those. And the last one is a comparison between the dynamic results. So you run the sample, you see what happened, then you do a static analysis. So you just like analyze all the strings, all the imports, the exports, and you compare. If I get in the behavior the same or at least similar things that what I saw on the static analysis, so it seems it's not packed. But if the difference is like huge, that means there is a layer that is hiding stuff. So we are going to move from here actually to the workshop itself. So trusted. Okay, in the meantime, so please let me know over the chat if you already have the virtual machine. So, and I'm going to answer some questions. In the meantime, can entropy analysis be always trusted, especially if we consider binaries that have embedded pictures like embedded resources like pictures? No, actually, all the methods that I show you here, I just listed, you cannot rely just on one. You need to rely, or you need to see the problem from different perspectives, and according to the result of each of those analyses, you can came to a conclusion. If you only use one of those analyses, probably you are going to get a wrong result. So you need to see the problem from different perspectives. That's important. It's low because people trying to download it. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to give you some minutes. So in the meantime, let's move to this machine. So one, we are going to validate each of the methods, and I'm going to be attentive to all your questions. So this is the virtual machine. Actually, I'm going to download the samples. Download. If you see here the samples, we have 3 samples. One that is we are going to work here with Art Evil, which is a ransomware. We have an unpacked sample, a custom packet sample. So this is basically the sample that was used in a real attack, and this is just a modification of Art Evil using UPX. So I'm going just to download this, and I'm going to open this into the virtual machine. Okay, so we're gonna review each of the methods I just show you, and keep me posted. So I'm gonna be like super attentive to all the questions in the meantime. Just in case, for this workshop, to extract the samples, the password is infected. So for the virtual machine, once you have it This is the password. This is VM. So first method I told you, signature-based detection. So as I told you, this relies on tools that contain some signature. Those signatures could be, for example, Jara rules or any other kind of rule that allow us to detect specific characteristics of the binaries. In this case, I usually use detect it easy. So if you open the UPX remote with detect it easy, UPX is a super common packer. That's why the tool is telling you it's packed. That's it. This software has a packer, and this packer is UPX. Why we have that output directly? It's because this software contains the signature. And actually, if you click here in signatures, you are going to see a lot of signatures. So look that this software contains a lot of packer, a lot of signatures for different packers. So that's good because that allows you to quickly and very easily detect a packet. But as I told you, like when I was answering one of the questions, is you cannot rely only on one tool. One example that I'm gonna give you is that this, I know this other sample is also packed, but the problem with that is that basically detect it easy doesn't have the signature for this packer. In that case, it says it doesn't have any packer. So see that this is a good example of a method that is gonna be fast, it's gonna be very easy to do, but it's gonna work only on some scenarios. In this case, it works in UPX because this software contains the signatures for UPX. If the packer that the malware is using is not doesn't have any signature in the software, you are not going to have any detection. So that's why the software is going to tell you like, no, it is not that. But that's a lie. So that's why you have several different methods. So this is the first one, signature-based detection. The second, strings, imports, and exports analysis. Okay, let's go with the second method, imports, strings, imports, and exports. So we have here, I'm gonna have open the UPX version. So I know this is packed, and I'm gonna open the clean rebel binary also in detect it easy. We can use, to get the strings, we can use detect it easy or also PS Studio. So it's up to you. So you can click just in strings and click just in strings. So just for the sake of order. At the left, we have the clean REBL. So the one that is unpacked. On the right, we have the UPX. So this is packed with UPX. Now we are gonna compare the strings. Just that. I want you to compare the strings to see what's the difference between the strings. Right from the beginning, you start in the unpacked, in the clean sample, you are gonna see that it has like some interesting strings, such as services active, double run not allowed. It has some strings here, like some executables. And let's continue. There is, so this is the clean. This is the packed. If you compare, actually, you don't see these strings here. So the amount of strings when a sample is packed, or at least the amount of useful strings when a sample is packed, is way less than the one that is unpacked. So see that here, at least we have an idea. There is an HVT host. We have an idea, but again, same thing here. You cannot rely on this method just because. No. If you see some strings that are interesting, when I say interesting, let's define that. For a malware analyst, interesting string probably could be an IOC such as a URL, a domain, an IP. Also, if you have paths where the sample can be installed. Also, if you have mutexes, also it could be interesting to see which are the registry keys that are being accessed or modified during the execution. So that kind of stuff is important. That's interesting. And this is also one key like concept that you need to have in mind. You need, if you are gonna start analyzing malware, you need to filter strings as much as possible. So you need to be good at filtering to basically identify, train yourself to identify stuff that is interesting. So you don't need to start like wasting a lot of time here. No, you just go read the whole thing and see, okay, I think this could be interesting. I think this could be interesting. So remember that word, could. Another important thing here to remember, don't rely only on one tool. So we just did this string analysis using Detect It Easy. Now let's compare the same, let's do the same analysis, but with a PS Studio. So that's another important thing. So we are gonna compare just the strings from this tool. This was the Detect It Easy, and this tool, which is a PS tool. Just showing you here. Right from the beginning, let me show you this. These are the strings of the unpacked sample. And look at the strings in PS Studio for the same file. Look that we have more. So this is also a key lesson. Don't rely only on one software. There are some things that one software can see and the other no. And for example, in this case, this string is super important. Why? Because at least just if you look at this string, you can identify which is the algorithm that this sample is using to encrypt data. In this case, if you just go directly, let's do this example here, expand key, let me show you. Expand 32 bytes, that's the keyword. So we're going to look for 32 byte key. Okay, so if you 32 byte key. If you look this, you will find that actually, if you look for that in Google, you will find that this string, just the string, I didn't reverse anything. I just look at the string. Based on the string, you can identify the algorithm that was used to encrypt. In this case, it's Salsa 20 or Chacha 20. So you will see expand 16 bytes, and there is another one which I expand. Let me show you. Expand 32. This one. So look the power of the strings. So I just look at the strings, filter the interesting strings, and based on that, we can get interesting information such as the algorithm, the C2 servers, stuff like that. So that's why when now going back here, remember, don't rely only on one tool. And the second thing is strings in a packet sample usually have less information than strings in a in a clean or an unpacked sample. Okay, so let's look at this difference. So in this case, we have a string that allow us to identify the algorithm. In this case, no. So that's important. In this case, we have some executables here. And the rest of it is kind of like garbage. So yeah, I'm just like scrolling down, garbage. But at the end, look, double run not allowed. So that's kind of the story here when you are doing the string analysis. When you are analyzing the functions are actually the imports. So you can go here to the functions. And if you do the comparison, so let's close everything. Remember, we have here the clean version of our eagle, and we're gonna compare that to a packet version with UPX. Usually, you are gonna see a huge difference as well. So in this case, look at the amount of functions that you have in the sample when it is unpacked is usually higher in a sample that is unpacked or that is clean than the one that is packed. Okay, so this is the packet version. Look, this is the unpacked version. So usually you can see that kind of stuff. So that's the second analysis. But as I say, don't rely just on one analysis. Don't rely, please. You need to start like doing all these things like super quick and get an idea. You just need to grasp an idea and say like, okay, it looks like, and continue doing the analysis. Don't, okay, how to find if the garbage thing is not an encoded. So that's it. That question is super interesting and it's really good to actually identify that garbage is not something encoded. You actually need to start looking at the code. So I'm going to show you a little trick with IDA that allow us to solve that question. Okay, so don't worry. Yeah. Yeah. These two flaws also is amazing. Yeah. So that if you want just to do a quick analysis and extract a lot of strings that probably are encoded, yeah, I said go with flaws. That tool is amazing. PE structure analysis. So let's go again to the VM. Open in PStudio. I'm going to open the UPX and I'm going to open. We are going to compare the sections of the unpacked sample with the packed sample, okay? So let's do here. We're going to focus this analysis on two things. First, the first value is the row size. The second value is the virtual size. Small definition. Row size is the size of a specific section of a PE, but when the PE is stored in the disk, okay? The virtual size is the size that is requested by the binary to the operating system when the binary is executed. I mean, so you double click that file that is stored in disk. So the operating system is going to ask the binary, okay, how much space do you need for this section in memory? And the binary is going to provide this value. So the operating system is going to create a section in memory with that size. If you start looking at those numbers, you are going to see that packet samples have a weird behavior. Let's do the comparison here. At the right, the UPX version. In the left, the clean version of the malware. Okay, so let's do the comparison. Let's go first with the the clean version. Look at the raw size and the virtual size. If you compare both numbers, they are kind of similar. At least they are in the same order of magnitude. I mean, in the raw size, in disk, its size is 46,000 bytes. When it's loaded into memory, 49,000. So it is in the order of thousands. If you see this, the next section, 11,000, 12,000. They are not the same, but they have kind of the same order. This one, 7,600, 12,000. So in the thousand, we continue not the same, but they have the same, they are in the same order. 29,000, 53,000. So this has something kind of weird, but at least they are in the same order, thousands. This one, again, like thousands. And this is like 512, and in here is 4,000. So this could be like kind of suspicious, but they are kind of similar. Now look at this. This is a UPX, raw size versus virtual size. Raw size, 0. Virtual size, 69,000. That's weird. That's absolutely weird. And the difference between both numbers in magnitude is way, way, way bigger than any other difference that you see here in the clean section, in the clean sample, sorry. So this is important. If you see that kind of anomaly, something is strange, it's weird, and we need to see what's happening. Why this happens? Basically, what we see here is that there is a section that in disk doesn't have any actual size. It's just a section without any data. But when it is loaded into memory, the operating systems allocate a lot of memory for that. So it's like they are gonna start writing probably new code in that section. So that's why this kind of analysis is interesting and it's important. So this kind of anomalies you just need to continuously look for. Okay. So remember, you are not looking for, or we don't want those values to be the same, but they need to be in the same order of magnitude. If you see huge differences, there is something weird. So that's the other. Entropy analysis. So to actually explain entropy here, entropy basically is a kind of measure that we have to compute how random the data of a specific part of information, how random a specific data is, something along those lines. Why is important when we are dealing with Packers? If you encrypt data, usually the entropy of the data that is encrypted is going to be higher than the data that is not encrypted. So packers usually encrypt data. So that means a packet sample usually has a higher entropy than an unpacked sample. So I'm going to show you that real quick. We go back here to the Take It Easy. We do the entropy analysis in both scenarios. So UPX in the right and the clean version in the left. So let's look here at the numbers. If you see, let's just focus on this graph. If you see the entropy all over the file, it's not that high. The highest value of entropy is 8. So In this case, we have an entropy of like 6. Look. The higher entropy actually is in a specific section. So the higher entropy of this file is in this section. So, but the rest of the file doesn't have that high entropy. So according to this analysis, what we can conclude is that at least the sections of text, those sections doesn't have, at least these sections, the section of text, which is this one, doesn't have a lot of encrypted data, so probably the code that is not protected. If you compare that to this graph, you will see that like everything has like a super high entropy. In that scenario, you can say like, okay, this probably the code is not packed here, and here everything is like super obfuscated, super encrypted or packed. Why? And this is another important conclusion. Why, for example, we have some sections with high entropy in this file that is unpacked? It's basically because all the configuration is encrypted, and this section of REvil contains the configuration. That configuration is encrypted with RC4, so that's why the higher entropy of the file is in the encrypted section. The rest of the file, which is like in plain text, kind of where we can see actually the code, that section doesn't have that entropy like that high. Okay, so that's important. That's the other analysis. Now the final analysis that actually it's kind of a trick for IDA users. So you can just go directly open the file in IDA. It doesn't matter if it is the freeware version or the pro version, but this is a small trick that is gonna give you and save you some time. I'm going to show you the difference between a packet sample in IDA and an unpacked sample in IDA. So you just open the both files. We are not gonna start reversing now. We're just gonna see a small picture or graph that we have in IDA. Look at this bar. Look at the top. So look at this bar. This bar actually is one of the, it's a super interesting feature that IDA has. And when IDA analyzes a sample, IDA tries to organize the kind of data that the software founds over the whole binary, okay? When you find something that is in blue, so for example, all of this that is blue, that means those are regular functions or functions that were programmed, that were developed by an actual human, okay? So those are the lines of code that belongs to the software. The rest of it probably could be data. In some cases, we can find some DLLs code or calls to additional resources. So we can have several other types of information. But when you just, if you want just to see what's the amount of code that IDA detected of the actual file, you just need to see this. So you see this section, the part in blue, and that part is the code that IDA identified as a part of the software, okay? Now, let's compare. So this is the clean version. Let's compare that with the packet version. Look the amount of blue. So look the amount of blue of the unpacked version. Look the amount of blue of the packet version. So the packet version has a really small amount of blue. So if one day you just go open the file in IDA and you see that amount of blue being so small, probably the software is packed. and I can show you that with the other one. So you can open it. That's it. Wait. Open. So I'm gonna open the other packer. See that the amount of blue is really, really small if we compare that just with the unpacked version. So always the unpacked version is gonna have this bar like really long. The others versions are going to have that really small. So this is a nice tip if you want to identify packers, okay? So that's it. Good. If you have questions by now, please let me know. The last analysis that we can do is actually compare. So we just need to execute the sample, see what happened when we execute the sample, and then we compare those results with the static characteristics that we see. So for example, if we see that there is in the strings, you don't find any kind of import trying to connect to internet, and you see that there are some connections, so probably you can say like, okay, something is hiding this. So probably that can guide you to define probably is packed, or in some cases, depending on the sample, they are going to resolve those IPAs dynamically. So that's another thing that we can do. Okay, so remember, first thing you want when you want to detect a packer, so you can use any of these six methodologies or strategies, and you can have an idea that you don't need to rely, or please don't rely just on one. Try to do the whole analysis, try to get the whole picture, and after you have done that, probably you will get a nice understanding of what's happening. Then, once you have identified that the malware is packed, we need to unpack it. We need to get rid of the packer. So here is just, this is our objective. The art of unpacking malware is just to be good at finding the tail jump. So here, probably the guys that have been working with packers for a while, they know what's the tail jump. But for the ones who don't know, the tail jump is the instruction in which the execution of the packer ends. And the control flow is redirected to the entry point of the original sample. So the whole question of unpacking is how can we get to that point in which the packer code ends and the control flow is redirected to the original sample. So we need to get to that point as fast as possible. That's the whole problem. The thing here is that this jump can be implemented in several ways. That the implementation of those depends actually on the expertise of the experience of the attacker. But it could be a simple jump. So it's a jump instruction to a specific address. It could be a call. Or it could be a push with an address and then a return. So this is the only assembly we are going to see today. And this is one of the things that I want you to have in. You don't need to be super expert, like understanding the whole assembly and like, yeah, you see assembly and write Python or C code directly. No, you can unpack samples just with the basics. So if you know how to identify these three instructions, you are good, okay? But before you start dealing with this process, actually it kind of changes a little bit depending on the type of packer. So, and this is something important. I created this list of packers based on my experience. So I haven't like seen this clear classification of the type of packers, but according to the behavior, I created these categories. We have some packers that substitute code. That means when they are executed, they replace some code in memory. We have some packers that inject code. That means these packers allocate new memory sections and inject some code in those new sections. We have some hybrid packers. Basically, they do some kind of injection to then do some substitution. So we're gonna see one of those here. But so it's kind of the addition of these two. So we inject some code. That code is usually shell code. And then we use that shell code as a pivot to replace the whole content of the original file. Therefore, the last packer is the code virtualization. That is way out of the scope of this workshop. Code virtualization packers are basically virtual machines. They have their own instructions. So you need to actually understand that new assembly, let's say those instructions, those opcodes, and with those, you can reverse the sample. So we are gonna focus on the first three. We can have both, answering your question. We can have packers that inject code in its own memory space and other packers that inject code in additional processes. Okay, actually, it's kind of similar. I'm gonna explain both of them here. So let's move. We're gonna start talking with about one of the packers that is called the code substitution packer. As I told you first, it replaces some parts of the original executable that was mapped in memory by the operating system. That means, let me explain this graph. So this is the time, the red line is the time. When you executed the sample, you double click the sample, you get something like this in memory. So in memory, you have your P header. In memory, you will have an empty section. You have a section with encrypted data, and you have some code that is the code of the packer. When the packer starts, we are going to start here in this, let me annotate here. We're going to start here in the packer code. So that the entry point of our binary is going to be the entry point of the packer. That's it. Okay, so we start in that point. The packer is just going to read the encrypted content. And then it's going to decrypt the content and copy all that decrypted content to the empty section. So if you see here, that's why I say it is a substitution, because it is going to change the structure that was initially loaded by the operating system. So the operating system loaded an empty section. Now the packer is just gonna decrypt and replace the empty section with the actual code that is gonna be run. So at the end, this is how we started. We started like this. So you double click and you started with this structure. When the execution of the packer has completed, we are gonna have in our memory, in the memory space of our process, we're gonna have the same P header. In the empty section, we are gonna have the original entry point. So the actual code, okay? The unpacked code, the clean code. And the OEP is it means the original entry point. so the entry point of the original binary. The encrypted payload is gonna be there in memory, but it's not needed anymore because it was already decrypted. And wait, clear fragments. Wait, and we are going to jump from the packer to the original entry point. That's the third jump. So let's do it again. We started in the packer. The packer read the encrypted payload. Decrypt that content into the empty section. So at the end, we have the empty header, but the empty section is no longer empty. Now contains the original code. The encrypted payload is gonna be there in memory, but it's not useful anymore because the content, the real content is in the yellow section. Now the packer needs to jump to the original code. So that jump is the famous tail jump. So at the end, you are gonna have all this code that is no longer useful, but the original code also in memory. And the packer just redirected the execution of the file to the actual entry point. So our task as malware analyst is to get as close as possible to the tail jump, so to this point, to actually be able to see what is the entry point. So our first task, just that, is how can I get to this jump from the end of the packer to this entry point? Until now, do you have questions? Because we are going to do the actual exercise, and we are gonna do it with, we're gonna start here, code substitution packer. So if you have questions, let me know. We're gonna start. So now I think you have the samples and the machine. And we're gonna start with the UPX. You have all the explanation here, the same slides, all the pictures are here. So let's go. Okay, so let me start the machine. And I can show you the first type of packer, which is the substitution packer. Yes, let me send you the link actually, if you don't have it. Yeah, everything is being recorded, so this is the repo. We are gonna share that repo in our social networks, so in Twitter, also LinkedIn, so you can have that just in case. If you have any question of this kind of packer, just let me know. Just like setting everything. So I can answer your questions right now. Okay. So we are going to start with the UPX. Okay, UPX is a code substitution packer. And one of the reasons, or one of the things that make us think that it is a substitution packer is the fact that it, when you analyze the sections, as we did previously, the sections of this packer, there are some sections that are empty. So, I mean, look, in disk, there are sections that doesn't have any data. And when they are loaded into memory, there is a huge space allocated. So I just open in my, sorry, this is 32. I just open in my debugger, the packer. I'm gonna go with this human here. So look at the human, just in case. This human is important. That human is gonna give you directly to the entry point. So mouse. Okay, so I just click the human, we are in the entry point of the packer. If you go to the memory map, you will see different sections. So look, this is the base address where the sample was loaded. This is one section, this is the second section, this is the third section. Now let's see one thing. The UPX0 is the section that in disk doesn't have any data, but in memory contains a lot of data. So UPX0 is a section that is interesting for us. So if I just right click, following dump, you will see that that section is empty. So doing the comparison, UPX is exactly this. So we started in the packer, we have a section with encrypted data, we have an empty section in memory, and we have the rest of the PE header. Actually, we can do the UPX minus D, but I want to use UPX. Okay, I want to use UPX. I know it's super simple, and actually you don't need to do the whole analysis that we're gonna do here with the debugger to unpack UPX, but I want to use UPX for you to understand the next steps of the logic to unpack harder packers, okay? So that's why. But if you actually use UPX minus D, it will work, okay? However, the idea here is to show you the logic behind the process of unpacking. So we're using UPX just an example to keep improving, okay? Again. So I'm gonna clear everything, all the drawings, good. So I just opened the UPX-R-Evil in my debugger. Then what I did was just click in this human. That human is gonna execute the code until the entry point, boom. So this is the entry point of the packer. Now that you are here, I want you to see, so click memory map. In the memory map, you are gonna find the specific address where the code was loaded. So you will see that UPX-R-Evil is located in this base address. You have different sections, okay? As I told you, one of the important things to see or to analyze when you are doing a very initial static analysis of a sample is validate the size of the sections. I see here that we have a section with 0 bytes and the other section contains 69,000 bytes. So that's weird. That's why for us, UPX0 is a section that is interesting. So I want to see what information this section contains. If I right click and go to following memory dump, I'm gonna see that this is empty. So again, we are here, right click, following memory dump, that's it. We see that it's empty. So that means UPX is exactly this. We have the PE header, the empty section, encrypted data, and the packer stop. And you can see that right here, so in the memory bank. So this is the header. Here we have the empty section. Here we have the code of the packer, and here is the encrypted data, if I'm not mistaken. But that's kind of the logic here, okay? So if you want to unpack UPX real quick, we're gonna scroll down until you find a jump. And this is the reason why this jump is called the tail jump. Look, that is at the tail of the code. Right after this code, you are not gonna find any other instruction. That's why we call it the tail jump. So this is the jump we are super interested. This is the jump that probably is going to give us the address of the original code. So what are we gonna do? Right click, breakpoint, toggle, or just press F2. If once you have added that that breakpoint, you can click on run, and you will see, look, that the section that was empty now contains some code. That's it. Now it was empty, now it contains code. And we are right at the end. We're in a jump. This jump is going to change the, or like, forgot the word. We're going to redirect the execution of the current sample from this section to the new section that contains the unpacked sample. So for that, we're gonna step into, boom, that's it. So look that I just did the step into. Now when I am in a different section, that was the tail jump. So again, I press here the human, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. This is a tail jump. Look, it's just a jump. To one important thing about this jump. Look at the address to which it is pointing. So currently we're in a section which is C43F89. This jump is pointing to an address that is far from that from that address. It's not C4, it's C2. That means it's really, really far. When we are trying to find the tail jump, we want jumps to different addresses. Okay, so that's why I am not looking for this kind of jumps, because these jumps are in the same like area. So C43 is the same thing. C43, so that's not a tail jump. This is not a tail jump, the same reason. This is not a tail jump. The tail jump is the one that has a really huge difference in the address. So finding the tail jump, is it going to be, no, it's not going to be that obvious. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to continue. So give me just 5 minutes and you are going to understand why we are using UPX to actually understand the unpacking logic. But what you are saying there is actually what we're gonna do next, okay? So this is super simple, and that's why people is actually asking, okay, why you are doing, so like UPX, you just need to scroll down, so you already know how to unpack it. Yeah. The thing here is that we need to get as close as possible to this tail jump without knowing where is located the tail jump. So that's why, and if you scroll down here a little bit, that's why virtual protect is important. And basically, this is the first Windows API that we're gonna see, and this Windows API is gonna help you a lot when you are dealing with packers. First, virtual protect is a Windows API that is going to change the protection or the permissions of a specific section of memory of the process that is calling that API. This Windows API is super important because as packers are going to continually or constantly update the protections of the memory sections, they need to write stuff in the memory, they need to execute stuff. So for us, as analysts, it's important to see what kind of actions they are doing, okay? That's why virtual protect is our first, okay, wait. Virtual protect is our first Windows API that is gonna help us a lot in the unpacking process. So let's go back. Yeah. So again, for the person that was asking, show you how we jump to the original entry point. So again, the human, press the human, and here this is the entry point. So scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. I just wanted to add here a breakpoint. So once I have the breakpoint, remember the breakpoint is just right click, breakpoint toggle. We are here. Now I need to step into. So step into is actually here. This is the step into. So you press that one, boom. It just jumped to the original entry point. So the question here is, how can I get to the actual tail jump without knowing that I need to scroll down? So first, we are going to create or to add a breakpoint in Virtual Protect. How to do that? Press Ctrl plus G. So you just press Ctrl plus G and you get this box. Now, Virtual Protect. And you are going to be redirected to the place in which Virtual Protect is loaded here in memory. So we are going to add just a breakpoint in Virtual Protect. Okay. We are going to do the same exercise, but we are going to remove this breakpoint. I don't want that breakpoint anymore because we are going to suppose that we don't know where the tail jump is located for this sample. We don't know. We only know that we added a breakpoint in Virtual Protect. That's it. Why we added a breakpoint in Virtual Protect? Because we want to track or monitor all the changes that the sample is doing on the permissions of the memory sections. Okay, that's it. So exactly. If you want to use the line of code that Andre shared, you just need to copy and paste VP Virtual Protect, and you add that here in the command, enter, boom, same process. So we're gonna press run, and we're gonna let the sample run. Now we have the execution of the sample has been stopped in Virtual Protect. That's it. So we need to come back from Virtual Protect to the actual code of the sample. If you see here, and this is also important, look at here, look at this section. It says module. Currently, we are debugging code in kernel 32.dll. That is not something that I want to do because kernel 32.dll is something that is a DLL that Windows created. So we are debugging Windows code. I don't want that. I want to debug my malware. So how can I come back from here to the actual malware? So I'm gonna press this. I'm gonna change the color. This one in green. I'm gonna press this one. The one in green. That arrow pointing up, execute till return. So basically we are gonna execute the code and we are gonna wait. We're telling the debugger, I want to wait until or stop when the function is ready to return. So I press this. Now see, we're in a return instruction. So that's good. Now we are gonna press again this step into. Boom. So look, now we are again in the code of the packer. So in our sample, we know that here the previous call was a call to Virtual Protect. So we can add here some comments and say like this was Virtual Protect. Okay. The nice thing of this approach is that just scroll down a little bit and you will find the tail jump. So you don't need to scroll down the whole thing. You just added the breakpoint, came back from the breakpoint to the actual code and scroll down a little bit. And you find that very close to virtual protect, you are gonna find the famous tail jump. Actually, if you continue executing the sample, you will see that there is another call to virtual protect even closer. Look, this call to EVP is kernel 32 virtual protect. So this second call of virtual protect is actually even closer to the tail jump. So that's why it's super important to. So we have two virtual protect calls, and right after the call, we have the jump, the tail jump. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Now, this is why virtual protect is super important. A shortcut for add comment. You just click in one of the lines and press and type this. You tap semicolon and that's it. So when you, as soon as you type that, you are gonna get that that box, the text box to add the comment. Okay. So remember, just wanted to tell you, virtual protect usually is used right before the tail jump. So you can just add a breakpoint in virtual protect. Once you came back from virtual protect back to the actual code, you can scroll down a little bit and you will find the tail jump. Boom. Do it again, just in case. So human, boom. We are in the entry point. Okay. We are here, the breakpoint. We're gonna add the breakpoint as Andre said. So we're gonna add the command vp virtual protect. Now, so if we see we have in breakpoint, we have the breakpoint in virtual protect. So that's good. We're gonna execute. Now we are in virtual protect. Remember, virtual protect is in kernel 32 DLL. We don't want to waste our time there. So we want to go back to the code. So for that, we're gonna press here in the green arrow, in the green, in the arrow that is highlighted with green. So this one, execute return. Now we are in the return instruction. Now we can click here in step into. So we came back from the function. Good. Now we scroll down a little bit. Boom. There you have it. Remember that, just that. I don't want at this point to start like digging or giving you more details of how virtual protect works. I just want you to know that virtual protect is usually used right before the tail jump. So you don't need to start debugging a lot of code, just virtual protect. And when you came back from virtual protect, you can start like debugging just little by little until you get the tail jump. Okay, that's why we started with UPX. But I know some of you are gonna say like, but UPX is super simple. Yeah, so let's go with something that actually is interesting. So we're gonna close here. I just want you to have this information very clear in your head, because we're gonna move to something that is gonna be more difficult and challenging. Okay, we are gonna start unpacking the actual R-Evil. So before doing that, so remember, we just found a way to actually find this tail jump. So we're happy. That's it. I need to change this annotate, clear the drawings. Okay. Okay. So now we have the other type of packer that is called the code injection packer. In this case, we are talking about a packer that does a self-injection. So it injects code in its own memory space. What it basically means is that we are allocating, or we are creating new memory sections in the same process, and it can write shellcode or complete P files to execute. Okay, so The difference between this substitution and this one is that in this case, we are not going to have an empty section. What we're going to have basically is the P header, the encrypted data, and the code of the packer. We're going to start in the code of the packer. It is going to allocate a new section. It is going to read the encrypted content, is going to save or is going to copy that content, the decrypted content, to the new section. So in the new section, we are going to have the unpacked code. At the end, what we are going to have is we're going to have the same P header, a new section with the original code. The encrypted payload is going to be there in the memory as well that it was used, and the packer is going to jump from this to this. This is a kind of packer, but actually currently this kind of logic is not very like used. The packers have been evolving, and I haven't seen one packer like this in, I don't know, like 3 years. It's like they got like more interesting, let's call them. But this is the kind of self-injection. So they need to allocate new memory sections, okay? Virtual alloc is important, but we can also see here local alloc, global alloc. Yeah, I think that those are like virtual alloc, global alloc, and local alloc are some of the APIs that can allow us to understand what's happening here. So we will see there later. Okay, as I told you, this is super basic. It's kind of the same as the previous one, but the only difference is that we are allocating a new section. Now, there is another kind of packer that is doing the process injection. So for the guy that was asking me about the difference between the packers that inject in its own memory space and in other processes, in both cases, they are doing kind of the same thing, but they use different Windows API. So in a process injection packer, what you are going to see is that we start in a process. You start a process, you have a PE, the encrypted payload, and the packer code. Okay, you start in the packer. The packer is going to create a new process. The process is going to have the same structure as so it could be SBC host, explorer.exe, it doesn't matter. It's going to have its own sections, all the default sections that this binary uses, but the packer is going to delete those. So for this, they are going to use a Windows API that is unmap view of section, for example, that allows the packer to delete the code. Then it's going to allocate a new section in the new process. It's going to read the encrypted payload. It's going to save. It's going to copy basically the decrypted payload into the new section. So the original entry point is going to be in a new section of the second process. One important thing here is that the second process is usually created in a suspended mode. So the process just starts, but it's waiting, okay? So this is the kind of the logic of the packer. At the end, once the packer logic is completed, basically the packer from the original process is going to execute or start the remote thread in the process B. So process A usually dies, and process B is gonna continue with the code of the unpacked sample. Okay, so this is kind of the logic of the unpacked. So this is the strategy to handle this kind of packer. So as I told you, we need to understand is just the Windows APIs that they use to do this kind of behavior, okay? And by the way, I'm glad that you are enjoying the journey. Okay, so we are going to move, and we are going to move to the third class or type of packer that is called the hybrid packer. So they do injection, but they do the injection just to substitute or replace the code. So we start with this structure. So we have our PE header, we have our encrypted payload, and we have the code of the packer. That's it. We start in the code of the packer. What the system is going to do, what the malware is going to do is, it is going to allocate a new section. It is going to read the encrypted payload, and it's going to decrypt that payload into a new section. However, in this section, it is not going to be, it is not going to paste or save a complete P file. It will save a shellcode. Okay. For those who don't know well the meaning of shellcode is basically, here I have some definitions. Shellcode is a small piece of code that does not comply to any standard, any format of executable. I mean, it doesn't have a header, it doesn't have the whole structure of a PE, for example, it is just code, okay? And one important thing is that the shellcode, to be able to execute shellcode, you need another program to load the shellcode and redirect the execution to the shellcode. Okay, so it is not that you double click a shellcode and that's it. No, you need to load first into memory and then redirect the execution to that specific code. So remember, go back a little bit. Boom. We started with the packer. We create a new section. We read the encrypted payload. We copy that, decrypt the content and copy that code to the new section. But what we copy is just shellcode. This shellcode, actually, you can see that there are some chains. So this shellcode can allocate a new section. In that new section, you will have another shellcode. That new shellcode is gonna delete the whole original PE, so this one, and is going to replace that PE with the new binary. Okay, so with the unpacked sample. So that's why I changed the whole colors. This was how this is basically the packer code, but the shellcode is gonna replace everything with the unpacked sample, and is going to jump from this new shellcode to this new packet, to the unpacked sample. So, and you can see this shellcode change a lot. So that happens a lot, okay? Usually, because they don't, this shellcode, if we compare this shellcode to the shellcode that is used when you are doing some exploitation, this shellcode doesn't require the NOPs instructions. Why? Because you use NOPs basically as a way to catch the execution of the program and redirect the execution like randomly to your code. That's why you usually when you are doing exploitation, you spread a lot of shellcodes with a lot of NOPs all over the place, and you just wait until one of those shellcodes start to execute. In this case, because it's the malware that is doing everything, it doesn't require all the NOPs, okay? So it just requires some code. Why are two levels of shellcode? They want to make your life miserable. That's the whole idea. Remember that once, for example, if they add in the first layer of shellcode, for example, they can add the decryption algorithm. So you cannot reverse actually it's harder to reverse a shellcode than a complete in IDA, you need more configurations, you need to resolve the libraries. So it's not that easy to actually like start analyzing the shellcode, for example, and also the shellcode only lives in memory. So if you want to start understanding everything, the more code that they have in memory is like that they are going to be detected like less because only lives on memory. That's why they can have like 3-4 layers. It's up to them, and they want to they want us to cry, basically. That's the reason why. But that's the injection, the hybrid packer. So they inject and substitute code. Okay, and that's the packer that we're going to handle. Yeah, why? Because usually antivirus vendors, at least antivirus, they do the scan on the disk. In memory, they usually don't do that kind of scanning because it's going to consume a lot of resources. So that's why if they add those codes into memory, they are going likely less to be detected. Okay, so an EDR probably could detect this because an EDR is trying to hook in some of the functions, but that's why fileless malware usually have more have more success because all the code only lives in memory and not in disk. That's the idea. Okay. Let's see. That's it. So let's move. Boom. The last type of packer is the code virtualization. So basically, they give you a virtual machine, and your application is ported to a custom instruction set. So the virtual machine is going to read constantly. Is going to read, keep reading the new instruction set and converting that instruction set to the actual x64 or x86 assembly and executing. So this is way out of the scope of this workshop, okay? Way out, because you actually need to understand the VM to take this application and port that application back to the real assembly. So this is insanely crazy. Just in case, but there are a lot of people. You need to be really good at reversing to actually be able to do this. So, and what I want to tell you here is that you don't need to understand a lot of assembly to actually impact. So that's why this is very out of the scope. Okay. So now let's move back to the virtual machine. I think this. So if you have questions, let me know. It's a good time to answer questions while we move to the next sample. So we are gonna start analyzing this packer, the custom packer Rebel or Rebel, sorry. This was an actual that file. It was an actual file that was used in an attack here in one bank in South America. So this was the real thing. So let's suppose that we need to respond to that incident. We need to actually understand what's happening. What is the malware family? Okay, so please, everybody in the same mindset. Okay, so we're gonna start with the same approach. So we know it is packed. So again, I'm gonna annotate here everything. So again, you open it, you go here to the human. So click. Once you click, you are in the entry point. So to make it easier, let's go back here to our graph. So we are right now, we are in this section, okay? We are in the purple arrow, so we're in the packer code. Can you give a file? Can you give a file format example that separates between shellcode? Actually, when a shellcode is loaded, you don't see like a really difference because they are just going to copy and paste the code. But if you want to actually extract the shellcode, so I can show you how you can extract the shellcode here. So you can actually have those and like do an additional analysis. Okay, but in this case, they don't differ if a shellcode, if it is loaded into memory or if it is in disk, a shellcode is the same because it's just code. So they are just going to copy and paste that code into memory. What changes actually is the PE file. Okay, just in case. So for the sake of order, so we are located here. We started. We have the P header, we have the encrypted payload, we have the Packer code, and we are located in the entry point of the Packer. So that image is basically this. We are debugging the Packer, we are in the entry point of the Packer. That's it. Okay. Now let's go a little bit here. So you can follow the whole process here. We are gonna see and this is a complement. No, I'm adding more information here in the actual guide, in the to-do guide. We're gonna monitor 3 different Windows APIs: virtual alloc, local alloc, and global alloc. So this definition is important. Any packer that uses injection must allocate additional memory sections. This to identify those new memory sections, so we can use the virtual alloc, the local alloc, and the global alloc. So we can add some breakpoints to those functions. Okay. So we're gonna find the first shellcode. To find the first shellcode, so we're gonna do we're gonna run this. We're gonna add a breakpoint in local alloc. That's it. So local alloc, boom. So again, if you want, you can just write here local alloc, or you can add here the breakpoint. It's up to you. Now, so I added the first shellcode, at least in this sample, was allocated. The first memory section was allocated using local alloc. So we're gonna add a breakpoint in local alloc. That's it. Once we have that breakpoint, so we're gonna execute. So we're gonna press this one, which is run. So I'm gonna press run. Boom. So now we are here in the local alloc. Same thing that I told you in the previous example with UPX. You need always to see what's the module you are debugging. We don't want to waste our time debugging something that is from Windows. No. So in this case, we are debugging kernel 32. I don't care. I really don't care about Windows in this case. So what I'm gonna do is I need to go back. How can I go back? Okay, you already know. You need to press here in this one in red. This one is execute till return. So execute till return. Click in that. So you see here that you are now in a return. We continue in another module that is not the actual sample. So we just press here in this one. I'm going to change the color to yellow just in case. So I'm going to press here, boom. So now we came back from the Windows libraries to the custom packer are evil. Good, perfect. So we know here, look, this is the local alloc. now one small trick or tip, sorry. Usually functions such as local alloc, global alloc, and virtual alloc, they the return value is the address of the new memory section, and it is usually you can find that here in blue. You can find it in the EAX. So in EAX, we have the value of the new memory section. That's the address. So what we can do is just like right click, follow pin dump, and this is the new address, okay? So now we're gonna continue executing and see, we need to see what's happening. Did you see what just happened here with the first byte? I don't know if you see it, so let's try again. So I'm just stepping over. Look, that is changing. So F9, 27. So let's continue. Look, yeah. Also, this is another thing that is important. Probably for many of you, you will say like, my God, there is a lot of assembly, XOR, move test. If you see, I'm not looking at the instructions. So I'm not reading those. I'm not reversing the instructions like crazy. No, I'm just focused on what is happening. And I see there is a loop, and actually it's super simple to see the loop because there are some arrows. So it couldn't be easier. There is a loop. Okay, so that loop, and actually if you are like debugging, you see that that loop is writing something in the new section. I don't care what it is writing, don't care. I just see there is a loop. I don't wanna be like the whole day debugging that loop. So what I'm gonna do is just like step out of the loop. So one instruction after this arrow, which is like going back to the beginning of the loop, and just stepping, I'm gonna add a new breakpoint after that loop. Add a breakpoint, toggle, and play. Boom, it changed everything. I don't know what happened here, but okay, I just wanted to change it, that specific section, no more, okay. So after that, you will see, so we are just going to continue debugging. So if you are taking notes, so we came back from the local alloc. So we see that in that new section, we add the malware started to save some data. Okay, we don't know what this data is about, but after, so there, it just like run through a loop, copy and paste data there. Okay, perfect. After that, we have a call. So let's see what happened. This is another tip. You don't need to start like going into functions if you actually don't know what you are looking for. So in this case, I don't know if this function is important or not. So because I don't know, I prefer to step over rather than step into. Otherwise, you are going to step into everything and you are going to get super lost. So it's rather step over. Nothing happened. That was what I actually did in the local alloc. I ran I had the breakpoint here and coming back, and I'm just looking here what's happening. So I did that. Here I'm just like showing you what the things that this thing is doing, and see that there is another virtual protect in that value. Yeah, that's another option. Yeah, sure. But there is one thing here, and is that if I add the breakpoint right now, it won't work because this code will be overwritten. So if I add that breakpoint at this point, that instruction is going to be overwritten, so we're going to miss it. Okay, so it is doing some changes with virtual protect, and after that, boom, look that the code was changed. So it looks like the malware copy an encrypted payload of shellcode to this new memory section. And after that function, which is this one, this basically decrypts shellcode. So now I can do what Aaron said. Now I can add a breakpoint here because everything was done in this memory section. Okay, I just want to show you the whole thing, then we can learn how to do this in less than 1 minute. Okay, but I want you to have like a clear idea of what's happening here. So this is the first shellcode. If you want to dump the shellcode, you can just like follow this section in memory, and then you just follow in, sorry, no, I just, wait. No, wait, screw it, I break it. Memory section is this one here. Dump memory to file, that's the way you can dump the shellcode. So that's not gonna, you can add that to IDA, but at least for in the freeware version, that shellcode is not gonna be useful for anything. You need to be, you need to have the pro version because this is not a PE, okay? So just in case. So let's continue executing. So we know that that section contains a new shellcode. How do you, another comment, how do you know it is shellcode? Because that section is just, if you just following this assembler, you can see the actual code. But let's do it again because I lost the section here. So let's do it again. So I already have the virtual log, so I came back. This here. So here was the end of the loop, okay? And then what I did was just like wait, no, I screwed again. Sorry, because I didn't took notes of the address again. So we are in the local log, okay, good. So we came back from local log. This address here is the address that we are gonna follow. So this is the address here, good. Now we continue, perfect. Now we are gonna skip the loop, perfect. Now we have here everything. We scroll down, this section is gonna decrypt, boom, perfect. Now, how do we know it's shellcode? Usually shellcode starts with this kind of instructions, E801, so E8 is a call. Look at almost all calls have an E8. So if you choose or select this part and say like, following this assembler, this is the shellcode. Okay, this is the shellcode that's gonna be executed. I'm gonna show you that real quick in a minute. As I told you here, so now we know the shellcode is there. So we need to wait until this packer jumps from this code to the shellcode. And once that happens, we are like blind. There is no more information in file, in the file. It's just in memory. Everything, all the logic of the packer is in memory. So that's why they use it. So we just need to keep scrolling. So there's a jump, scrolling down, like here, look that there is a jump. I don't care. I just want to go to this return just in case. So I'm going to add this toggle. So we continue. We want to validate, we want to see the place in which the execution is redirected to the new shellcode. And look, one interesting thing. Look this call. So I told you that, let's go back here. Usually those jumps that redirect from one memory space to the other or from one binary to the other could be a jump as the one that we saw in UPX, could be a call as this one that we have here. This call is a call to a dynamic value. So that's interesting. In that case, we step into, and this is the code of the shellcode. So we are in the new section, we are in the shellcode. If we compare this, we are in the yellow section. So this yellow section is going to allocate a new section. We are going to go to that specific place. So how that happened? So this is the logic. Memory is allocated, an encrypted shellcode is copied, memory are set to, I'm gonna give you more details of that in some minutes. Shellcode is encrypted, shellcode is executed. So all of that happened just in some seconds. The second shellcode is injected using virtual-alloc. So I want to add a breakpoint in virtual-alloc. Good. So I'm gonna add the breakpoint. Boom. Okay. Now I'm gonna execute. Now we are in the breakpoint. Same thing. So this arrow is pointing upward. So execute return. This value here, same value, that value is the value of the new memory section. Look that in this case is empty. So we are now in the this arrow, so we want to step into the return. So this thing here is virtual-alloc. Okay, cool. Now look, one interesting thing that is happening here. After the virtual-alloc, you can continue debugging. There is a call, as I told you. If I don't know what the call is about, so I prefer to step over rather than step into, because otherwise we are gonna get super low. So I step over, see what happened, see the new memory section that was empty now contains some code. That code, if you follow in this assembler, boom, it's a second shellcode. So that's the second shellcode. But one important thing here is that right after that, look, this suspicious jump. It's a jump to a dynamic value. That is the second tail jump. So that is the place in which we are going to jump from this yellow shellcode to the new blue shellcode. Okay, so that's good. We're in a good path. Jump again. One of the characteristics of tail jump is it's a jump to a very different address. The address that is resolved here is A7 and 4 zeros, and this one is C5. It's super different, so that's interesting. So we step into, boom, this is the new shell. So we are good. This just happened in front of our eyes. Then this sample is gonna decrypt the payload. For that, it's going to allocate some memory for the virtual-alloc using virtual-alloc. So we have already in a breakpoint, we have virtual-alloc, so we can execute it. So boom, another call to virtual-alloc. Again, go back. We take this value, following dump, so it's empty. Now let's see what happens. So I'm gonna scroll over, execute this, just as I told. The first thing that I do is just like see what happened. Look what is happening. Boom, 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 boom. MC. I don't know, but when I see MC, usually I get super excited. It's like, oh my god, it's I'm in the right path. So I'm gonna add here a breakpoint and boom. This is the binary in memory. So the second shellcode decrypted the payload. That payload currently is in memory, but it's not ready to be executed. It's just in memory. Actually, if you want, you can just extract this from memory. So you can just go and go here to follow the memory map, right click, dump memory to file, and you can have here the binary. But I don't want that. I want to keep looking, seeing what's happening here. So are just in this place. Then the last step this packer is going to do is going to substitute the original binary. So let's go back. Remember that we are now in this shellcode. We have everything prepared. We have decrypted the payload. So what this thing is going to do is going to delete the original binary. It's going to copy and paste the new one. So we want to see that. And to actually see that, we're going to add a breakpoint in Virtual Protect. Again, so we're going to add that toggle Virtual Protect. We're going to execute. See, now I'm going to show you something interesting. In Virtual Protect, actually, if you go here, Virtual Protect. So let's continue. Virtual Protect receives several parameters. The first one is the address, the second is the size, the third one is the protections. It's a constant that tells the operating system to define or to understand which is the protections you want. Okay. So first is the address, second is the size, third one is the permissions. So those constants, you can get those here, memory protections. And if you see here, you can see the values. 10 is page execute, 20 page execute read, 40 page execute read write. So let's see what's happening. Fuck. Wait, I don't know why this just shut down. But anyway, in the meantime, what I eat. Shouldn't you fix IT before dumping the binary? It depends. It depends, actually. And we are going to see two examples real quick. It depends on the logic of the packer, and I'm going to show you that. There are some packers that are so lazy, and they do not load the sample as Windows does. So when Windows loads a binary into memory, they do first, Windows reads all the sections. They read the header and start mapping the header to the memory, allocating the required memory space for each of the sections. And Windows does something interesting with the import address table. And basically, the import address table is a list of all the DLLs and the functions that are required by the software. When Windows reads that, Windows doesn't load that part. Windows basically resolves those DLLs in memory and gets rid of that list. So Windows by itself, if you are going to dump a file that was loaded by Windows, you need to fix the import address table. But there are some packers that, because they are doing all this stuff in memory, at the end, they need to load the sample in memory. And they don't care about what things they load and which things they don't load. So they just basically copy and paste in different sections, like in the format of the memory, but they keep the same import address table. So in those cases, you will see that you just unpack the sample and all the import address table is complete. That happens because the threat actors were super focused on hiding everything, and at the end they say that I just want to copy and paste everything here into memory, and it worked. If they have additional, if they improve that unpacking methodology, they just need to get rid of the import address table, and in that scenario, we just need to fix the import address table. Okay, so that depends. So let's go back. I'm going to show you the same example, and you will see that actually, because the first time that I saw a sample that I unpacked, and it worked, and I say like, but why I haven't fixed the import address table? It's because they just copy and paste everything. If you have, yeah, Windows just found my ransomware. And yeah, okay, got it. If you have more questions, just let me know. Happy to help you. In the meantime, don't forget to follow me on Twitter so we can talk if you have questions, additional questions, or if I can help you with something else. Okay, replace file destination. Where will be the recording be? Okay, we are going to save this in Dropbox and we're going to share everything on Twitter and on our social network. So LinkedIn, Twitter, so just in case. Okay, let's go back real quick. My machine just like turned off, so that's why we need to start again. But so we're in the entry point, the first entry point that the first breakpoint that we're gonna add was local alloc. Why? Because this is the place in which the first shellcode is gonna be saved. So we press here, we click here in this arrow pointing upward, executive return. We have the return. So we just copy, right click here, following them, boom. So we have here the value. We step in. Windows just deleted my file. Yeah, wait, I need to, wait. Okay, again. So entry point, good. Breakpoint, local alloc, perfect. So execute local alloc, execute the return. Now I following dump, I have everything here. I'm the return instructions. So step into, that's it. This is the place where I told you like everything was like being copied. So I don't care. I have this other breakpoint. So boom, I just copy everything. This is the place where the shellcode is gonna be decrypted. So the first shellcode, boom, is changed. Then I told you that after that, we're gonna follow the execution. There is a return. I don't care. I want just to go directly to the return value. So execute, follow. That's it. And there is a call. This call is super interesting. So we're going inside that call. Boom, this is the first shellcode. Then we go and we're gonna add one, which is the virtual alloc. Virtual alloc, we're adding the second breakpoint. Boom, we execute. Boom, we're here. So we see what's happening. So there is a new section that is going to be allocated in this address. Perfect. So we take that address, follow in map, follow in dump, sorry. So this is the first shellcode. This is the second memory space that is being allocated. Step over. So here it's easier. You see that there is a call. This call, boom, copy and pasted a lot of shellcode here. So this is the second shellcode. Decrypt second shellcode, just in case. Boom. After that, you will see that there is a jump. This jump is super interesting. So we continue. Curious. Okay, good. And we are in the second shellcode. Good. That's it. So now we need another breakpoint in virtual alloc. We have the breakpoint, so good. Execute. We came back. So we have a new memory section for the new for the PE. So that's going to be in DOM 3. So we have first shellcode, second shellcode. This is going to be where the PE is going to be like saved. So we continue, execute. There is a loop. This loop makes us happy because it has the empty header, so that's good. Perfect, so, but I don't care. So I continue and we are going to add a breakpoint here and execute, boom. So we have now here the file. Now, I want to show you that currently they have prepared everything. So we are ready to the replacement. But for the replacement to be able to, actually to be done, they need to change protections. So they are gonna use our virtual protect. That's it. So we're gonna add a new breakpoint in virtual protect. Okay. Interesting. We execute. Virtual protect is now. So here in this section, in this part, you can see in this section, you can see the parameters that are sent to virtual protect. This first part is the address that is going to be changed. This is the site, and these are the protections. 40, if for those who remember 40, they want to execute, read, and write. Which address? They want to execute, read, and write the address 4 and 5 zeros. If you go here to the memory map and you look for the 4 and 5 zeros, is the base address of the original packet code. So they want to replace everything. They want to change, they want to write code in that section. How many or how many code? How much lines of code? I don't know, how many lines of code? 21,000. So it's like a huge amount of code that they want to do. So that's interesting. Look, I want you to look this. So if you see virtual protect in a packer, but the parameters, the section that they are trying to modify is the original section, that means they are going to replace. That's important. So you came back here. Good. Now, I told you, and this is the same story with UPX. Right after they use virtual protect, you can start scrolling down. So this was virtual protect. You can start scrolling down, and we need to find the tail jump. That's just that. So this jump, I don't care because this jump is pointing to the same memory space, so I don't care. This call, I don't care. This jump, I don't care. This call could be interesting, but if you click in here, you see that it's a virtual free, so I don't care. This call could be interesting, but it's a load library. This call could be interesting, but it's a get proc address. So if you see what this packer is doing is just resolving all the imports for the unpacked sample. This jump, I don't care because it's in the same memory space. This call is get proc address, so I don't care. I don't care. Usually when I am reversing, you will hear me say I don't care a lot. So we are gonna find, we need to find actually some a jump that probably can match what is a tail jump. So for example, this call could be something. Why? Because it's pointing to an address. We don't know which is that address, but probably could be. We can continue scrolling down a little bit, and there is another jump to EAX. So actually, that jump to EAX is the tail jump. So you just did, as I told you, and as we did with UPX. Once you have completed the whole flow, you add a virtual breakpoint in virtual protect, you need to start looking, and this is where you need to learn how to filter. Among all these codes, I was looking for something that looks like a tail jump. This, for me, looks like a tail jump, so I'm gonna add here. You can try with the others and see what happened, but in this case, I'm gonna add here the tail, a breakpoint. We are in the tail jump. EAX is pointing to the base address, so that's good. And we are going into, and boom, this is the entry point of the unpacked code. So that's the main idea, okay? So now the question is, okay, how can you dump a file from memory? Perfect. If you have the entry point of the sample, plugins, only dump EX, dump process. Again, plugins, only dump EX, dump process. clicking get EIP as OEP. This basically is telling the software that you want this registry that contains the current address that is being executed by the processor. We want that to be the entry point of the dump example, okay? So we are going to click here, we're gonna dump, and now we are going to save that into the desktop, this. Now, this is where you need to validate is if you need to check, if you need to fix the import table, the import address table, sorry. So if you go to PS Studio and you see that the functions are not listed, that means the import address table is broken. In this case, it is not broken. So that was because these guys just copy and paste everything in memory. Okay, so we just dump it and it will work. I'm gonna show you the case of UPX. In the case of UPX, actually, wait. In the case of UPX, actually, you need to fix the import address table. So I'm gonna show you how to do that as a last lesson. And I think we are pretty much done with this. Boom. So we're gonna unpack UPX and you're gonna see the difference and you can see when you need to actually fix the import address table and when you don't need. So we are in the entry point. Again, we're going here to add a breakpoint. Breakpoint is virtual protect. Boom. So I have here the breakpoint virtual protect. Perfect. So I came back here. Step perfect. I see that the tail jump is here, so that's good. I'm gonna add the breakpoint here in the virtual protect. I'm gonna remove the virtual protect breakpoint just because I know that it has to virtual protect. I am here now in the tail jump. Boom. This is the unpack example. Now, let's dump the UPX. Dump process, blah, blah, blah. So I'm gonna fix get EIP as OEP, same thing. So we're telling the process, the program that we want this address, which is the entry point of the unpacked sample, we want that as the entry point of the sample that we are dumping into memory, from memory to disk. We're dumping that, save it, boom, that's it. Finish. Now let's compare. So the custom packer dump versus the UPX evil dump. And you will see that at least for UPX, you need to fix the import address table. And I'm gonna show you how to look at the functions. Let's do the comparison. This was the sample that I dumped from the custom packer. Look that all the functions are here. Good. Look the functions that I have here in the sample. Look that I don't have names. That means the import address table is broken. What does it mean? Even though the strings are useful, the sample is not gonna run. Look that we have the span32 byte and all the other strings. But if you just double click that file, it won't work because it's gonna create like it will crash because it cannot resolve the import address table. Look, it cannot run. So when that happens, so you just need to click in Scylla, import address table to search. Doesn't matter if you click no or yes. If you click no and it doesn't work, then you just need to click yes. But it's not that relevant. Then get import. Those are the imports. Click dump. And once you have done that, so you just need to fix the dump. And boom. Now, if you will have an additional sample that contains SCY, that was the one that contains the fixed import address table, okay? And if you go to the functions, wait just a little, boom, 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 boom. Now you have the functions. So now this works. At the end. Okay, super quick. No, don't worry, don't worry. To fix the import address table, super easy. You need to be in the entry point. So first, to actually dump the file, it's easier, dump, process, and then get EIP as OEP, and then you click dump. You add the name you want and you save. That's it. To fix the import address table, remember, you only fix when the import address table is broken. That means when you open the file in a process in PS Studio and you see that these functions doesn't have any name, that means it's broken. So you click, you click here in this S. So let me annotate here. This is S. Boom. So you click here, then EAT auto search. You click in no. If it doesn't work, then you try again and you click in yes. But usually it is not something that is gonna change your life if you click in yes or not. So it's just like, usually it works with no. Then after you click here, you click in get imports. So you have here the list of imports. Then you click in fix dump and you are gonna look for the dump that you already have in disk. Okay, you save it in disk. You click that, you click in open, and that's it. After that process, you will have a new sample with the letters SCY. That means that sample was fixed. Now, for the guys, yeah, now you have one sample that actually you can analyze in IDA. So it is unpacked. You will see that you will have all the, this line is going to be super long, but also you can debug the sample, and that's important because usually it's going to be faster if you debug the sample, like if you mix both things. And this is just another story. Here is where the actual assembly, the whole analysis is going to start, okay? But I just, from now on is where you actually need assembly. I just wanted to let you know that if you want to unpack, you don't need to actually understand assembly. You just need to know which are the APIs, okay? But from now on, you can just like use this, start reversing, use Didra, Binary Ninja, IDA Pro, whatever. And just for the sake of, like, I did the process good or well, so I'm gonna double click a ransomware and we're gonna wait. So we're gonna infect this machine. So we did a great job. That is very much everything here. Let me see. Wait, what happened? Work, doesn't work, what happened? So the last, remember, this was the whole packer. One important thing, just to summarize everything. So I show you like the whole process. So I'm going just to delete everything. And now I want to show you one thing here is like, now that we know how to unpack a sample, with these tips that I gave you, you can unpack a lot of generic malware, a lot of, I think you probably you are going to face, you will have issues is with the ones that are doing process injection because we didn't see that packer here. But the rest of it, you can actually unpack. Okay, you can try it. Where permission doesn't have permission to, let me try. I'm gonna show you how we can work. We can do in less than 1 minute. We can unpack. So let's do it. So we start with this. We add it here. I'm gonna remove all the breakpoints. In a real life scenario, you don't need to actually understand every step that the packer did. So you don't need to actually see all the shellcode. That is just if you want to do some research. But if you are in a hurry, it seems like the defender is doing something. Ah. What happened? Yeah, at the end I was infected. Yeah, something happened here. But it didn't, yeah, it changed it. So one of those samples worked. I don't know which one of them worked, but I executed almost all of them, and I have here are evil now. So funny. But if you want just like doing real quick. So now you start entry point, you just need virtual protect, virtual protect. Good. So at the breakpoint, virtual protect, perfect. Now, first run of virtual protect, they are setting permissions on a different section than the base address. The base address, remember, is 4 and 50. So I don't care. Next. The second virtual protect call is doing something on our base address. So that's the one that I care about. So I came back here. Now I start scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down, scrolling down. That's where I want to find the tail jump. So this is where you need to like start filtering. This is the tail jump. So breakpoint, toggle, tune. Now step into, this is the unpacked code, the original entry point. So plug, I lost all my plugins because I have the ransomware already. But now you can dump the file and actually extract, fix the import table if it is needed, and you can just run it. Look, one of those that I executed worked. So yeah, it worked. Now, the thing is that now my machine is broken. So yeah, we have our evil, and that's the whole story. So if you want to do this by yourself, you have the whole guide. And to finish, actually, so these are the last things. First, if you are dealing with code substitution, so you can use this virtual protect, virtual alloc, local alloc, and global alloc. So that's interesting. If you are dealing with process injection packers, you can look for create process A, write process memory, virtual alloc, and resume thread. Those are just some of them. You have a lot of APIs that they can use. So if you actually want to master this, I really advise you to go into this resource, Elastic. Then process injection, I don't know what's happening. It's like it's not online now, but that resource here. Then process injection techniques. You can see each of those, and you can see which are the APIs that they use. So you just need to understand the process, understand which are the APIs, and add breakpoints in those. So look, that they have a lot. Set thread context. So this is a nice resource that can help you. Also, go to MyTrade, and in MyTrade you have a lot. Okay, but at least what we have done today will help you a lot to unpack samples that do subcode substitution or injection in the same memory space. So that's it, guys. Just in case, again, if you we're gonna start posting things related here to the to the workshop. So some questions just in case, or also you can communicate always with us. So there are opcodes. So don't forget to follow me on Twitter. And just in case there are not, just in case, we're always looking for more talent. If you think you have the skills and you want to join the team, feel free. You are welcome. You can write to my email, to Twitter, and that's it, guys. Thank you so much.